And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Elton John!
I wanted to know how you got involved in the project, first of all.
I'd worked with Matthew Vaughan, the producer, before on some Kingsman films. I did some fight scenes. I did a fight scene. There was a church scene in the first Kingsman film where I sort of mashed up Freebird for that and did a remix of a Prince track for the second movie. And we knew each other. In fact, we were at school with each other, so it goes way back. And he phoned me and said, "Listen, I'm producing an Elton John biopic, and it's going to be crazy. When the music starts, everything's going to go weird. You know, I think you'd be the right person for the job." And I was like, "Yeah, great."
Well, I was going to ask specifically about the Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. You know, there's some homages to different scenes in England there, like two-tone and like Bollywood and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit about, was that in the script? How much of that did you help out with? Stuff like that.
Well, musically, I mean, I did it. So, but yeah, we went through the script first. I mean, the script is everything in a movie. Yes. You know, you base it on that, and so we realized that this was it was an important song because it's the transfer from young Elton to Taron being Elton. And we wanted to imbibe all of the influences we get in the 60s at that point. So how do we do it? And at the time, it seemed like a terrible idea. In all honesty, it's like, we're going to do a ska version of Saturday Night Fighting. We're going to do a sort of Bollywood version. We're going to do and I just, you kind of just have to throw yourself into this. The great thing about my world is I can do the music and do it fairly quickly. And there's not a big film set and everyone going on. I can get things wrong. And so that's what we did. And we ended up shooting to the music that I did for it. But that was the idea. We talked about what we could cram in there. That was the idea.
At least you weren't trying to do like, we're going to throw traditional folk in and we're going to throw in blues.
Yeah. I think there's only so much. You have to stop at some point.
Well, you could be the best-selling artist in America if you desire.
How far in advance of shooting was your work done?
Well, my work was never really done. So, yeah, I did a lot of work before shooting. I'm working with Taron as well and training him up to be Elton as part of the thing. We worked very closely together and with Dexter as well. And then I re-recorded everything before, but then only in rough form. So we had something to shoot to. And then recorded it again and recorded it again. That's the way it works. And then mixed it, then mixed the film. So it just carried on. The whole process carried on going.
Yes. And then we're going to remaster it for the vinyl release and
that's all fine. Actually, originally when we started doing the project, there was going to be no soundtrack album, and so I didn't record full versions of the songs. And then I think after we'd shot, someone said, "Oh, we're definitely doing a soundtrack," and I was like, "I've got to go and record," I phoned up Taron and said, "You need to sing like a whole lot of other verses," because in the movie you don't notice it, but a lot of songs are just truncated.
Yeah. They've actually been playing the soundtrack for us today on our tour bus around London. I have noticed that where it's like, you get a little deeper into some of those tracks
absolutely.
than you used to,
I think actually Tiny Dancer is a good example because Tiny Dancer was a struggle for me in the movie because the scene is him in a house in Mama Cass's party. He just starts singing, and it was one of the songs that was the most unnatural as far as starting singing goes for me, and I couldn't work out. And I'm my own biggest critic and pain. And I did it with the piano, the iconic piano to begin with. I did it with acoustic guitar. I did it with 12-string guitar. I did it with strings. I kept on doing it and watching the movie and going, that's wrong. But the advantage was when we came to the record, I had a whole lot of versions of Tiny Dancer, so I just chopped them all together and got Taron to. So the version of Tiny Dancer you hear on the record starts with the acoustic guitar and then goes to piano, because it's two different versions.
So how does it feel to be a star?
It's never going to last.
Let's just enjoy it while we can.
So Taron is an amazing singer to begin with, but he's also supposed to be sort of playing, not sort of playing, but he's playing Elton John. And people know Elton John's version of Tiny Dancer. And so how much of it is like, were you coaching him, now Elton did it this way in this phrasing, or how much of it is like, you make it yours?
Yeah, it's a good question. So that was one where we shot it, we recorded it beforehand, and then we shot it with him not singing on set. But then we go back and make him sing it so it looks like he's singing it on set.
So it's lip sync.
But we have to get the emotion right. So at a certain point you lose what Elton's doing and you think about what we're trying to say in the scene, and
Yeah.
that's what you stick to, because that's the most important thing. Because it's the surprising thing about Rocketman is very much a musical opposed to a biopic with songs in it. The songs
Yeah.
are a motive of the situation, and so it was that really. I mean, we do study Elton. We did study Elton. We studied originals, but at the same point, we're trying to tell a different story here than how Elton was sitting in the studio recording that song that day.
Did you have a favorite Elton song going in, and did that change over time? Like, did you grow an appreciation of a specific song?
Yeah, I did actually. I think, fun enough, I didn't think much about Rocketman. I knew Rocketman, but I really liked Rocketman by the end. I was really happy with what we achieved with Rocketman in the movie. It was the first one I really cracked, where because it tells the story of him, him committing suicide, him at the bottom of the swimming pool, then him and sonically and arrangement wise, I was really happy with that. I suppose, that was the song that, luckily being the title track of the film, but that was the song that probably.
There are certain songs that are not necessarily in the time periods that they should be in. Like, Elton didn't play Crocodile Rock. This is where you get into, like, nerd shit.
Yeah.
Elton didn't play Crocodile Rock at the Troubadour because that song wasn't written for 2 years later, or, whatever like that. Did that ever bother you, or did you ever think about it?
He also didn't fly at the Troubadour as well.
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah, that's that.
Weird.
And he didn't sing Rocketman at the bottom of a swimming pool. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I understand why people would say that.
Yes.
I think watching the movie and watching him from the opening point where he's dressed as a devil, following a younger self, you kind of realize that maybe. What I love about Rocketman actually is the fact it emotes more reality through fantasy, if that makes sense. Opposed to there's some films that have been very, very true in the way they're done, but maybe aren't as real.
So you grew up in a musical family.
I did, yeah.
But from what I read, it wasn't necessarily something that you were encouraged to pursue.
No, it wasn't, no.
Did you see any of yourself in a young Elton story?
Yeah, I did actually. I did know. I mean, no, he was encouraged to play the piano. I wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely. I empathize. There's a thing that I didn't agree with. And listen, my parents are great, and my dad was, my dad and I, he was an inspiration to me later on. But I always think that kids and teenagers should realize the world is open to them if it can be. I mean, listen, lots of kids and teenagers have no opportunity, and I did. But just to be able to not feel, have adults have opinion about what a kid is going to go and do for a living. I mean, how can that be the case?
It's never going to last.
Let's just enjoy it while we can.